Is Australia facing an economic disaster worse than the 2008 financial crisis? The signs are terrifying. Household debt is at record highs, inflation is eroding savings, and businesses are shutting down at an alarming rate. In just the past year, over 1,600 companies have collapsed, and experts warn this is just the beginning. Once a pillar of wealth, the real estate market is now a ticking time bomb, with families struggling under soaring interest rates. Financial stress is at an all-time high, unemployment is creeping up, and even well-paying jobs no longer guarantee stability. The real shocker. Some economists predict a full-blown recession by the end of 2025, which could wipe out the wealth of millions overnight. How did we get here? Is this just another downturn, or are we standing at the edge of something far worse? More importantly, are you at risk? Stay with us as we break down the warning signs, reveal who will be hit hardest, and most importantly, show you how to protect yourself and your family. Number 1, housing market crisis. For years, Australia's property market was booming, with prices reaching record highs. But now, that bubble is bursting. Mortgage repayments have skyrocketed due to aggressive interest rate hikes by the Reserve Bank of Australia, leaving many homeowners struggling to keep up. Those who bought at the peak are on the brink of foreclosure, with mortgage delinquencies surging over 30% in just 1 year. At the same time, property values are plunging, trapping thousands in negative equity, owing more than their home is worth. Investors aren't safe either. Rents are at record highs, renters are defaulting, and vacancy rates are rising. If this downward spiral continues, Australia could face a housing market collapse just like the 2008 US crisis. Are we on the verge of mass foreclosures and total financial ruin? The warning signs say yes. Number 2, rising inflation and cost of living. If it feels like everything is getting more expensive, you're not imagining it. Inflation in Australia has hit its highest levels in decades, making even basic necessities harder to afford. Food prices have surged over 10% in just 1 year, while fuel costs remain unstable, and electricity bills are draining household budgets. Everyday essentials like milk, bread, and meat have skyrocketed, forcing families to cut back on even the basics. Meanwhile, wages have failed to keep up, leaving even those with decent salaries struggling. The middle class is being squeezed, while low-income households face even harsher realities. Many Australians are now relying on credit cards just to survive, plunging deeper into dangerous levels of debt. And the worst part? Inflation isn't slowing down. If prices keep climbing while wages stagnate, thousands more will face financial distress. Is this just a temporary setback or a full-blown economic disaster? The signs are alarming. Number 3, unemployment and business closures. As inflation surges and consumer spending plummets, businesses across Australia are shutting down at a terrifying rate. The retail, hospitality, and construction sectors are taking the hardest hit, with over 1,600 businesses collapsing in just 1 year. Even big-name companies once thought to be untouchable are now filing for bankruptcy or drastically downsizing. Small businesses, the lifeblood of Australia's economy, are struggling to stay afloat as operating costs soar and customer demand shrinks. For many, it's no longer a matter of if they will close, but when. And as businesses vanish, so do jobs. The unemployment rate may seem stable, but underemployment is rising, leaving workers with fewer hours and lower wages. Job seekers are struggling more than ever as companies freeze hiring, slash salaries, and replace full-time employees with unstable contract work. If this trend continues, Australia could face mass unemployment, mirroring past devastating recessions. Will your job survive the coming storm? No one is truly safe. Number 4, government debt and interest rates. Australia's government debt has exploded past $900 billion, and with interest rates soaring, the cost of repaying that debt is spiraling out of control. The more the government spends on debt payments, the less funding remains for essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. To fight inflation, the Reserve Bank of Australia has aggressively raised interest rates, making borrowing more expensive than ever. Homeowners with variable rate mortgages are drowning in rising repayments, with some paying thousands more per year, pushing them toward financial ruin. But it's not just homeowners. Small businesses that rely on loans are struggling, leading to more closures and layoffs. Even major corporations are slashing costs and cutting jobs to survive the financial squeeze. If interest rates continue to rise, Australia's economy could grind to a halt, triggering a deep recession. On the other hand, if the government fails to control its debt, a sovereign debt crisis could cripple the nation. The warning signs are undeniable. A collapsing housing market, out of control inflation, widespread business failures, and a mountain of government debt. Is Australia on the brink of economic catastrophe? All evidence points to yes. So, the real question is, what can you do to protect yourself before it's too late? In the next section, we'll uncover the biggest threats and reveal who will take the hardest hit in this unfolding crisis. You can't afford to miss this. Your financial future could be at serious risk. Stay with us because what you learn next might be the key to protecting yourself before it's too late. What's causing this economic crisis? This economic collapse isn't happening by chance. There are deep, underlying problems pushing the country toward financial disaster. From global turmoil to policy failures, multiple forces are tightening the noose around businesses, families, and banks. But what exactly is fueling this crisis? Let's dive into the 4 biggest reasons behind Australia's economic meltdown and uncover the shocking truth. Number 1, global economic pressures. Australia may stand alone as an island, but its economy is deeply entangled with global markets. And right now, the world is in chaos. The US, Europe, and China are battling slowdowns, rising interest rates, and financial instability, sending shockwaves through Australia. Supply chains are crippled by wars, political conflicts, and post-pandemic struggles, making basic goods more expensive than ever. The US Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hikes have strengthened the dollar, making imports painfully costly for Australians. With stock markets in free fall, investors are fleeing, and global recessions threaten to crush Australia's export-driven economy. As the world teeters on the edge, Aussie households and businesses are paying the ultimate price. Number 2, China's slowdown and its impact on Australia. For years, China was Australia's top buyer, spending billions on iron ore, coal, and agriculture. But now, China's economy is weakening, and its demand for Australian exports is shrinking fast. The Chinese property market is in turmoil, with real estate giants crumbling under massive debt, causing steel production to plummet, a major blow to Australia's iron ore industry. Adding fuel to the fire, rising tensions between the two nations have led to trade restrictions on wine, beef, and seafood, slashing billions from Australian businesses. As jobs vanish and wages stagnate, Australia's economy is on shaky ground. If China's downturn continues, Australia could be staring at an even bigger financial disaster. Number 3, banking and financial instability. Australia's banks are under serious strain as rising interest rates make it harder for people and businesses to repay loans. Mortgage defaults are soaring, putting banks at risk of losing billions. For years, banks recklessly handed out huge loans, fueling a property boom. But now, as the economy slows, borrowers can't keep up with repayments. This is leading to loan defaults, forced property sales, and financial instability. Small businesses, heavily reliant on bank loans, are collapsing under cash flow shortages. If banks cut lending or start failing, a credit crunch could hit, making it even tougher for Australians to borrow money, buy homes, or start businesses. If this spirals out of control, a full-blown economic meltdown could be next. Number 4, cost of living squeeze. And with inflation at record highs and wages falling behind, Australians are struggling to afford even the basics. As a result, consumer spending is collapsing, and businesses that depend on it are facing disaster. When people cut back on shopping, dining out, and entertainment, companies lose revenue, leading to mass layoffs and closures. Meanwhile, household debt is exploding, with credit card use skyrocketing just to cover essential expenses. Many are draining their savings, leaving little for retirement or emergencies. If consumer confidence doesn't bounce back soon, Australia could plunge into a dangerous downward spiral, making recovery nearly impossible. So, Who will suffer the most? Not everyone will experience this economic collapse the same way. While some may barely feel the impact, others will struggle just to survive. But make no mistake, millions of Australians are at severe financial risk. If you fall into any of these categories, you could be among those hit the hardest. In the next section, we'll expose who is most vulnerable and, more importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. Don't miss this, your financial future could depend on it. Number 1, homeowners with high mortgages. If you have a huge mortgage, you're already feeling the squeeze of skyrocketing interest rates. Monthly payments have soared by thousands, pushing many homeowners to the brink. Mortgage stress is worse than ever, with foreclosures surging as families struggle to keep up. Those who bought at market highs are now trapped, unable to sell without huge losses. The situation is even more disastrous for those with variable rate loans as the RBA keeps hiking rates. If this trend continues, thousands more could lose their homes. What was once their biggest investment is now their greatest financial burden. Number 2, small business. Australia's small business sector is collapsing, with over 1,600 closures in just 1 year. Soaring costs, weak consumer spending, and brutal interest rates are crushing business owners. Rents, wages, and supplier expenses have exploded, yet customers are cutting back on spending. Many businesses are barely surviving or sinking into debt. Layoffs, reduced hours, and permanent shutdowns are spreading fast. Those relying on business loans now face crippling repayments. Retail, hospitality, and construction are suffering the most, but if this economic storm worsens, no industry will be safe. For small business owners, the coming months could be a battle for survival. Number 3, young workers and job seekers. If you're under 34 and searching for work, the future looks bleak. Many industries are freezing hiring, cutting hours, or replacing full-time roles with casual jobs to cut costs. Even highly skilled workers are struggling to find stable employment as companies hesitate to hire and competition for jobs is brutal. Graduate positions, apprenticeships, and internships are disappearing, leaving young people either stuck in low-paying work or jobless. Some are even returning to minimum wage jobs just to survive. If this crisis continues, building a career, buying a home, or achieving financial security could become an impossible dream. Number 4, retirees and pensioners. Australia's retirees and pensioners are facing an economic disaster. Superannuation savings are shrinking due to market downturns, while skyrocketing costs are draining retirement funds at an alarming rate. Many retirees planned to live off their super and investments, but with inflation surging, their money no longer stretches far enough. Shockingly, some seniors are returning to work just to afford basic necessities. The aged pension is failing to keep up with soaring expenses, leaving many retirees struggling to pay for food, rent, and medical care. Meanwhile, rising interest rates are crushing investment returns, making it even harder for retirees to generate passive income. Those who once dreamed of a comfortable retirement are now being forced to rethink their future. For Australia's aging population, this financial crisis could be catastrophic. How to protect yourself in a collapsing economy. With Australia's economy on the brink, the most urgent question is, how can you protect yourself? While no one can control the economy, you can take action now to safeguard your finances and reduce risk. Here's what you need to do immediately. Create multiple income streams. If you rely on one source of income, you're in serious danger. Jobs disappear, businesses shut down, and entire industries struggle in a downturn. The smartest way to protect yourself is by diversifying income sources. Start a side hustle, freelance, consult, invest in dividend stocks, or build rental income. Even a part-time gig could make the difference between survival and financial ruin. Eliminate debt fast. Debt is a financial time bomb in an economic crash. If interest rates rise further, loans, mortgages, and credit card debt will become unmanageable. Pay off high-interest debts first, avoid taking on new debt, and refinance loans where possible. If you're struggling with mortgage repayments, contact your lender before it's too late. Many banks offer hardship programs to help you avoid foreclosure. The less debt you carry, the more financial control you'll have. Invest wisely, avoid risky speculation. One bad investment could wipe out your savings. Now is not the time to gamble on high-risk stocks, cryptocurrencies, or speculative assets. Instead, focus on stability. Invest in blue-chip stocks, gold, and defensive industries like healthcare and utilities. If you're unsure, seek professional advice before making big financial decisions. In a crisis, protecting your wealth is just as important as growing it. Build an emergency fund now. An emergency fund is your financial lifeline. If you suddenly lose your job or face unexpected expenses, having cash reserves could be the difference between stability and disaster. Aim to save 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses in an easily accessible account. If you haven't started saving, cut back on unnecessary expenses, set aside a portion of each paycheck, and sell unused items to build funds quickly. In times of crisis, cash is king. Make sure you have some. The next few months could be life-changing. Those who prepare now will survive, while others may fall into financial ruin. Will you be ready? Number 5, stay informed and adapt. Ignoring any economic crisis is the worst mistake you can make. Those who survive financial downturns are the ones who stay alert, informed, and ready to adapt. Make it a habit to follow credible financial news, monitor inflation, interest rates, and job market trends, and listen to expert advice without falling for fear-driven panic. Be flexible with your career, investments, and money strategies. If your industry is at risk, start building new skills now before it's too late. Economic collapses create winners and losers. The informed and adaptable will come out stronger. To protect yourself, diversify your income, eliminate debt before rising rates crush you, make smart investments, and build an emergency fund. While you can't control the economy, you can control your financial future. Take action now before it's too late. What do you think will Australia recover? Or is disaster coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more crucial insights.